Lieutenant Maya Harrison had always been different. Growing up in a small town in Montana, she was the girl who climbed the tallest trees, jumped across the widest creeks, and never backed down from a challenge. Her father, a retired Marine, taught her that strength wasn't about size or gender. It was about heart and determination. When she announced at 18 that she wanted to become a Navy SEAL, everyone thought she was crazy. Women weren't allowed in SEAL teams back then, but Maya had a plan. She would prove herself worthy no matter how long it took. Before we dive in, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? If you enjoy stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow's episode is truly mind-blowing. Let's get started. The road to becoming a Navy SEAL was brutal for anyone, but for Maya it was nearly impossible. She spent 4 years in the regular Navy, excelling in every assignment, earning medals and respect from her commanding officers. When the military finally opened combat roles to women in 2015, Maya was ready. She had trained her body and mind for this moment, pushing herself beyond what anyone thought possible. Hell Week during SEAL training was designed to break people. The instructors pushed candidates to their absolute limits with freezing cold water, endless physical challenges, and almost no sleep. Maya watched as men twice her size quit and rang the bell that meant they were giving up. But she never even looked at that bell. Her teammates started calling her Iron Maya because nothing seemed to break her spirit. The night that changed everything happened during a covert mission in hostile territory. Maya's team was tasked with rescuing hostages from a compound deep in enemy territory. The intel was wrong. Instead of finding civilians, they walked into a trap. Explosions erupted around them as enemy fighters surrounded their position. Maya's team leader, Commander Jake Phillips, made a decision that would haunt him forever. As enemy fire intensified and their escape route was cut off, he ordered the team to fall back to the extraction point. "What about Harrison?" asked Petty Officer First Class Mike Torres as they ran through the dark corridors of the compound. "She's buying us time," Phillips shouted over the gunfire. "We have to go now or we're all dead." Maya was indeed buying them time, single-handedly holding off an entire squad of enemy fighters from a strategic position near the compound's main entrance. She had taken shrapnel to her left leg and her right shoulder, but she kept firing, giving her team the precious minutes they needed to escape. When her ammunition ran low, she switched to her sidearm. When that was empty, she used her knife. The extraction helicopter arrived at the designated landing zone at 11:23 p.m. Phillips counted heads as his team boarded. Maya wasn't there. The pilot was getting nervous as enemy vehicles approached their position. "We have to leave now, Commander," the pilot shouted. "Where's Harrison?" Phillips made the hardest decision of his military career. She didn't make it. "We go now." As the helicopter lifted off, Phillips told himself that Maya was already dead. There was no way she could have survived against those odds. It was better to save the team that could be saved rather than lose everyone in a futile rescue attempt. But deep down he knew he had abandoned her. Maya, however, was very much alive. When her ammunition ran out completely, she had retreated deeper into the compound, using her training to evade the enemy searchers. She found a small storage room and barricaded herself inside, treating her wounds as best she could with supplies from her medical kit. The shrapnel in her leg made walking difficult, but she had survived worse during training. For 3 days, Maya hid in that storage room, listening to enemy patrols search for her. She rationed the small amount of water in her canteen and ate nothing. On the 3rd night, when the searches had finally stopped, she began her escape. Using skills learned during survival training, she made her way through enemy territory, moving only at night and hiding during the day. The journey back to friendly territory took Maya 8 days. She walked over 60 miles on an injured leg, avoided enemy patrols, and survived on rainwater and whatever edible plants she could find. Her Navy SEAL training had prepared her for this. Never quit. Never give up. Never leave a fallen comrade behind, even if that comrade was yourself. When Maya finally reached a forward operating base, the Marines at the gate couldn't believe their eyes. According to their records, she had been killed in action over a week ago. Her own team had reported her as KIA, killed in action. The base commander immediately contacted Maya's unit, but the response was cold. Commander Phillips claimed there must be some mistake. Maya Harrison was dead. He had seen her die. Maya was taken to the base hospital where doctors treated her injuries. The shrapnel had caused nerve damage in her leg and her shoulder required surgery. But the physical wounds weren't the worst part. The psychological impact of being abandoned by her own team was devastating. These were men she had trained with, fought beside, and trusted with her life. They had left her to die without even trying to rescue her. Dr. James Mitchell, the base psychologist, tried to help Maya process what had happened. "You survived an impossible situation," he told her during one of their sessions. "You should be proud of what you accomplished." "They left me," Maya replied, staring out the window of his office. "My own team left me to die. How am I supposed to trust anyone ever again?" "Trust is rebuilt slowly," Dr. Mitchell explained. "But first, you have to decide what you're going to do with this experience. Are you going to let it destroy you? Or are you going to use it to become stronger?" Maya's recovery took months. The physical therapy for her leg was painful, and the shoulder surgery left her with limited range of motion. But she worked harder than any patient the medical staff had ever seen. She was determined to return to active duty, to prove that she was still a Navy SEAL despite what had happened to her. The military brass, however, had other plans. Maya's case had become politically sensitive. A female Navy SEAL being abandoned by her team and then surviving against impossible odds was the kind of story that could cause serious problems for the special operations community. There were suggestions that Maya should accept a medical discharge and retire quietly. Maya refused. She demanded a full investigation into what had happened during the mission. She wanted Commander Phillips and her former teammates to face consequences for their actions. The Navy, however, was reluctant to pursue the matter. Phillips was a decorated officer with an otherwise spotless record, and the other team members claimed they believed Maya was already dead when they evacuated. The investigation took 6 months and concluded that while the decision to leave Maya behind was controversial, it was within the commander's discretion, given the tactical situation. No formal charges were filed, but Phillips was quietly transferred to a desk job. Maya's former teammates were reassigned to different units. The military solution was to make the problem disappear by scattering everyone involved. Maya found herself assigned to a training facility, teaching survival skills to new SEAL candidates. It wasn't the field assignment she wanted, but it gave her a chance to share her knowledge with the next generation of warriors. She became known for her intense but fair training methods. The recruits respected her because they knew she had been tested in real combat and had proven herself when it mattered most. One evening, as Maya was finishing up a night training exercise with a group of SEAL candidates, she received an unexpected visitor. Commander Phillips stood at the edge of the training area, looking older and more tired than she remembered. He had requested permission to speak with her privately. "What do you want, Phillips?" Maya asked, not bothering to hide her anger. "I want to apologize," he said quietly. "What we did to you was wrong. I've carried the guilt of that decision every day since it happened." Maya studied his face in the dim light of the training facility. She could see the genuine remorse in his eyes, but it didn't erase the pain of what he had done. "Your apology doesn't change anything," she said. "You still left me to die." "I know," Phillips replied. "I made a tactical decision based on incomplete information. I thought you were already dead. If I had known you were alive and fighting, I would never have left you. But you didn't know because you didn't check," Maya shot back. "You assumed I was dead and made it easy on yourself by believing it." Phillips nodded. "You're right. I failed as a leader and as a teammate. I can't change what happened. But I can tell you that your survival and escape have been studied by special operations forces around the world. You've become a legend, Maya. Your story is taught in survival schools and leadership courses. You've inspired countless soldiers and SEALs." Maya felt a mix of pride and bitterness at his words. She was glad her experience could help others, but it didn't heal the wound of betrayal she carried. The conversation was interrupted by one of Maya's training candidates, a young woman named Petty Officer Lisa Wong, who was attempting to become the second female Navy SEAL. "Instructor Harrison," Wong called out, "we've completed the night navigation exercise." Maya turned to address her student, and Phillips took the opportunity to leave. As he walked away, he said quietly, "For what it's worth, Maya, you're the finest SEAL I've ever served with. I should have trusted in your abilities instead of giving up on you." Working with candidates like Wong gave Maya a new sense of purpose. She was helping to break barriers and prove that women could excel in special operations. Wong was struggling with some of the physical challenges, and many of the male instructors doubted she would make it through training. "They don't think I'm strong enough," Wong confided to Maya after a particularly difficult training session. "Strength isn't just about how much weight you can lift or how fast you can run," Maya told her. "It's about refusing to quit when everything inside you wants to give up. It's about finding a way to survive when survival seems impossible." Maya began sharing more of her own story with Wong and other female candidates. She talked about the mission where she was abandoned, the 8 days she spent getting back to friendly territory, and the months of recovery that followed. Her story became a source of inspiration for anyone facing seemingly impossible challenges. Word of Maya's teaching methods and her incredible survival story began to spread throughout the military. She was invited to speak at military academies and leadership conferences. Her presentation, titled "When Your Team Abandons You, Leading Yourself Through Crisis," became one of the most requested talks in the special operations community. During one such presentation at the Naval War College, a young officer in the audience asked, "Instructor Harrison, how did you maintain hope during those 8 days when you were alone in enemy territory?" Maya thought carefully before answering. "Hope isn't something you maintain," she said. "Hope is something you create through action. Every step I took toward friendly territory was an act of hope. Every time I chose to keep moving instead of giving up, I was creating hope for my future." The audience of officers and senior enlisted personnel listened intently as Maya continued. "The moment you stop taking action to improve your situation is the moment hope dies. But as long as you're fighting, as long as you're trying, hope stays alive." Maya's reputation as an instructor and motivational speaker grew, but she still longed to return to operational duty. The Navy, however, seemed content to keep her in a training role. She had become too valuable as a symbol and teacher to risk in combat operations. Everything changed when a new threat emerged. A terrorist organization had taken hostages in a remote location that was almost identical to the compound where Maya had been abandoned. The hostages included several high-value targets whose rescue was considered a top priority. Multiple rescue attempts had failed, and conventional approaches weren't working. Admiral Robert Hayes, the commander of Naval Special Warfare, called Maya into his office for an unprecedented meeting. "Lieutenant Harrison," he began, "we have a situation that requires someone with very specific experience and skills." Maya listened as the admiral briefed her on the hostage situation. The compound layout was nearly identical to the one where she had been captured and escaped. The enemy tactics were similar, and the terrain presented the same challenges she had overcome during her 8-day journey to safety. "We need someone who understands how to operate in that environment," Admiral Hayes continued. "Someone who has proven they can survive and escape from exactly this type of situation. We need you to lead this mission." For the first time in 3 years, Maya was being offered a chance to return to operational duty. The mission would be dangerous, and there was a high probability that she would be operating without support if things went wrong. The parallel to her previous experience was unsettling, but Maya didn't hesitate. "When do we leave, sir?" she asked. "The team departs at 0400 hours tomorrow," Admiral Hayes replied. "Maya, I want you to know that you'll be working with some of the same people who were on your previous mission. Commander Phillips has specifically requested to be part of this operation." Maya felt her stomach tighten at the mention of Phillips' name. "Sir, with respect, I'm not sure that's the best idea. Phillips has been fighting for 3 years to make amends for what happened," Admiral Hayes explained. "He believes this mission gives him a chance to do right by you. He's also one of our most experienced operators, and we need the best people for this job." Maya spent the rest of the day preparing for the mission. She studied the intelligence reports, reviewed the compound layout, and planned multiple escape routes. As she worked, she couldn't shake the feeling that history was about to repeat itself. The team briefing was held at 0100 hours. Maya entered the briefing room to find Phillips and several other familiar faces from her previous team. The tension in the room was obvious as Maya took her seat at the briefing table. Captain Lisa Rodriguez, the mission commander, addressed the team. "This is a high-risk operation with significant political implications. Lieutenant Harrison will be leading the assault team based on her unique experience with this type of target." Maya noticed the surprised looks on some faces. It wasn't common for a lieutenant to lead a mission with more senior officers present, but her expertise in this specific situation made her the logical choice. Phillips approached Maya after the briefing. Maya, I know you have every reason not to trust me, but I want you to know that I will not make the same mistake twice. I will not leave you behind again. You won't have the chance, Maya replied coldly, because I'm not counting on you or anyone else. I learned that lesson 3 years ago. The insertion went smoothly. Maya's team fast-roped from helicopters into the target area at 3:15 a.m., just as intelligence had predicted the enemy guards would be changing shifts. Maya led her assault team toward the compound, while Phillips positioned his support team to cover their withdrawal. As they approached the compound, Maya felt a strange sense of déjà vu. The layout was exactly as she remembered from 3 years earlier. She knew every corner, every hiding spot, and every potential escape route. This knowledge gave her team a significant advantage as they moved through the enemy positions. The hostages were located in the basement of the main building, just where intelligence had predicted. Maya's team eliminated the guards and began evacuating the civilians. Everything was going according to plan until enemy reinforcements arrived earlier than expected. Contact front, one of Maya's team members called out as enemy fighters poured into the compound. We've got multiple targets moving to surround our position. Maya quickly assessed the tactical situation. The enemy had learned from previous rescue attempts and had positioned forces to cut off the most likely escape routes. Her team was trapped in almost the exact same situation that had occurred 3 years earlier. Phoenix Base, this is Eagle 1. Maya called over her radio to Phillips's support team. We need immediate extraction support. Enemy forces are moving to surround our position. Phillips' voice came back over the radio immediately. Eagle 1, Phoenix Base is moving to your position. Hold your ground. We're coming for you. Maya continued directing the evacuation of hostages while her team fought off wave after wave of enemy attacks. The similarity to her previous mission was eerie, but this time she was the team leader making the difficult decisions. As enemy pressure increased, Maya had to make the same type of choice that Phillips had faced 3 years earlier. She could order her team to fall back to the extraction point, possibly leaving some hostages behind, or she could risk everyone by continuing to fight in an increasingly impossible situation. Ma'am, we need to move now, Petty Officer Wong called out. Wong had successfully completed SEAL training and was now serving under Maya's command. The enemy is closing in on our position. Maya looked at the remaining hostages who were still being evacuated. There were 3 people who couldn't be moved quickly due to injuries. If she ordered her team to fall back now, those 3 people would certainly die. Negative, Maya replied. We don't leave people behind. Everyone comes home. Maya positioned her team to defend the hostage location while the evacuation continued. She knew it was tactically risky, but she also knew she couldn't live with herself if she abandoned people the way she had been abandoned. Phillips and his support team fought their way through enemy positions to reach Maya's location. When Phillips saw Maya's tactical situation, he understood immediately why she was refusing to retreat. She was facing the same impossible choice he had faced, but she was making a different decision. Maya, Phillips called over the radio, my team will hold the perimeter. Get those hostages out of there. For the next 20 minutes, Phillips' support team fought with incredible determination to keep the enemy away from the hostage location. Maya was finally able to evacuate all the civilians, including the 3 injured ones who required special handling. As Maya's team began their withdrawal to the extraction point, enemy forces launched a final desperate attack. Phillips positioned himself to cover the retreat, taking up a defensive position that would allow the others to escape, but put him in extreme danger. Phillips, fall back to the extraction point, Maya ordered over the radio. Negative, Eagle 1, Phillips replied. Someone needs to hold this position to ensure everyone else gets out. I'm not leaving anyone behind this time. Maya realized that Phillips was essentially volunteering for a suicide mission to make up for his previous failure. She couldn't allow him to sacrifice himself out of guilt. All teams, this is Eagle 1, Maya called over the radio. We extract together or not at all. Phillips, move to extraction point Bravo. We'll cover your movement. Maya led her team in a coordinated fighting withdrawal that allowed Phillips' support team to fall back safely. Her tactical expertise and knowledge of the terrain enabled the entire force to reach the extraction point where helicopters were waiting. As they lifted off at 4:47 a.m., Maya counted heads to ensure everyone had made it out. All team members were accounted for, and all hostages had been successfully rescued. For the first time in 3 years, Maya felt like she was part of a real team again. During the flight back to base, Phillips approached Maya's seat in the helicopter. "Thank you," he said, speaking loudly enough to be heard over the engine noise. "You could have left me behind like I left you, but you chose differently." Maya looked at him for a long moment before responding. "That's what real teammates do," she said. "They don't abandon each other no matter what." The mission was deemed a complete success. All hostages were rescued, and the entire team returned safely. Maya's leadership and tactical expertise were credited with making the mission possible. More importantly for Maya, she had proven to herself that she could trust and be trusted by her teammates again. Admiral Hayes called Maya into his office a week after the mission. "Lieutenant Harrison, your performance on this operation was exceptional. You've shown leadership skills that go far beyond your current rank. I'm recommending you for immediate promotion to Lieutenant Commander." Maya was honored by the recognition, but she had a different request. "Sir, I'd like to return to regular operational duty. I want to lead a SEAL team in the field." Admiral Hayes smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that. There's a new team being formed that specializes in high-risk hostage rescue operations. They need a commanding officer with your experience and leadership abilities." Maya's new team included several of the people she had served with on the recent mission, including Petty Officer Wong and, surprisingly, Commander Phillips, who had requested a transfer to serve under Maya's command. "You want to work for me?" Maya asked Phillips when he submitted his transfer request. "I want to learn from you," Phillips replied. "You've shown me what real leadership looks like. The way you handled that mission, the way you refused to abandon anyone, including me. That's the kind of leader I should have been 3 years ago." Maya's new team quickly developed a reputation as the best hostage rescue unit in the Navy. Their success rate was perfect, and they became known for their motto, "Everyone comes home." Maya insisted that this phrase be painted on the team's briefing room wall as a constant reminder of their commitment to each other. During their first year of operations, Maya's team successfully completed 12 high-risk missions without losing a single team member or hostage. Maya's leadership style, which emphasized thorough planning, mutual trust, and absolute commitment to bringing everyone home safely, became a model for other special operations units. The story of Maya's survival and her journey from abandoned soldier to respected leader spread throughout the military and beyond. She received numerous awards and commendations, but the recognition that meant the most to her came from the young women who entered SEAL training inspired by her example. Petty Officer Wong, now a seasoned SEAL serving on Maya's team, often told new female candidates about Maya's story. "Instructor Harrison showed us that being abandoned doesn't mean being defeated," Wong would say. "It means you have to be strong enough to save yourself, and then strong enough to make sure it never happens to anyone else." Maya's story became required reading at military leadership schools, and she was frequently invited to speak at conferences and training events. Her message was always the same. True strength isn't about physical capability or tactical skill. It's about refusing to give up on yourself and refusing to give up on your teammates. 3 years after taking command of her specialized team, Maya was promoted to commander and given responsibility for all Navy SEAL hostage rescue operations. She had gone from being abandoned and left for dead to becoming one of the most respected leaders in special operations. On the anniversary of her abandonment and survival, Maya always visited the military cemetery where a memorial had been erected for fallen SEALs. She would stand before the monument and reflect on how her worst experience had ultimately led to her greatest achievements. Phillips, now serving as Maya's executive officer, often joined her for these quiet moments of remembrance. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't left you behind that night?" he asked during one such visit. Maya considered the question carefully. "I think about it sometimes," she admitted. "But I've come to realize that being abandoned taught me something I never could have learned any other way. It taught me that I'm strong enough to survive anything, and that knowledge has made me a better leader." "Your survival saved more lives than just your own," Phillips observed. "Every person your team has rescued, every SEAL you've trained and inspired, they're all alive because you refused to give up in that storage room 3 years ago." Maya nodded, understanding the truth of his words. Her abandonment had been devastating at the time, but it had also been the beginning of her greatest contribution to the Navy and to the people she was sworn to protect. As Commander Harrison walked away from the memorial that day, She carried with her the knowledge that sometimes the worst things that happen to us can become the foundation for our greatest achievements. She had been abandoned by her team and left to die, but she had shown the world that a Navy SEAL never truly falls. They always find a way to rise again, stronger than before. Maya Harrison's story became legend in the special operations community, not just because she survived an impossible situation, but because she used that experience to become the kind of leader who would never abandon anyone. In the end, being left behind had taught her the most important lesson of all. Everyone deserves to come home, and it's the job of true leaders to make sure they do.